computer. Okay. Hey, thanks for joining us today. My name is Rob Aubrey. I'm the host here of Productive Agent Podcast, which is sponsored by Aubrey Home Loans. And today I have a very special guest, Justin Udy. We've known each other quite some time. Justin's been in real estate 18 years. He actually has a master's degree in real estate development. He's a team leader. He has a team with 3 staff and 4 agents. So, Justin, welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's my absolute pleasure. I always say the side benefit, I didn't realize this when I first originally planned on doing a podcast, is I just get to hang around with some really cool people.
Absolutely. That's super fun.
I didn't even realize that, I just figured that's work, work, work. I'm like, no, I get to meet so many cool people.
It's hard to connect with people these days. This makes it so much easier.
Yeah, and more efficient too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because an hour meeting takes 2.5 hours if you do it outside the house, outside the office,
Right.
So,
right.
So how did you get into real estate? Tell us the story of how you got in real estate.
Yeah, I was finishing up I got a degree in marketing from the University of Utah. I was like on my way to my last final. My friend called me and he said, hey, I know you're finishing school. We're doing loans. He's like, you can make as much money as you want, or you can make nothing. He's like, so if you want to consider it, he's like, you should come over. And so literally I finished up school. I started doing loans and it was really, really amazing. Rates at that time where I remember somebody walking out of their office at that time and the rate had dropped below 7%. And they walked out of their office screaming, it's a refi boom. Right. It is a refi boom. And so it's just funny looking back, like where rates are, right? How, you know what I mean? Just this fluctuations, how the market goes up and down.
Yeah. I bought my first house at 9% and refinanced at 7%.
There you go. There you go. So funny.
Yeah. That was back in the early 90s,
Yeah. It's so funny.
So you got into loans. Then what happened?
Yep. Got into loans. So I was used to being on the phone because I was working at a call center, American Express, and they paid for a 90% tuition reimbursement. So I was at a call center. I was essentially called customer service systems recovery. So all the escalated calls I took.
Right.
And I was just used to being on the phone. And so I was closing, 8 to 10 loans a month, which I didn't think was a lot. But I was just used to consistently being on the phone. And so I was taking that money, and a lot of the, folks, and I hate to say our industry in general tend to be spenders, right. People were, buying cars, buying boats, buying cocaine, I don't know right. what they were doing, but they were buying other things, right? And being a little destructive. And I was buying properties and I was flipping them. And I had a great agent that I worked with. And I remember I had referred him like my 15th client, and he said, look, man, he's like, you get the numbers, you understand the sticks and bricks, like you're easy to talk to. He's like, you should really just consider getting your license. And right. So I did. I got my license, and I think that first 6 months I closed about 9 deals. I think the next year I closed about 27. And that's how it started.
There we are. And the rest is history, as they say, right?
The rest is history,
I like what you said about our industry that I like to spend. Dave Ramsey had a quote one time. I'll paraphrase it. He says, salespeople think they can outsell their stupidity.
That's so true.
Oh,
That's
man.
So true. It's so true.
Just one more deal a month and I can have another boat in the yard,
Yeah. Well, and I think that
Notice I said in the yard, not in the water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think that was one of the biggest things that really separated me mindset wise and even among other peers is I always had that investor mindset. Right. So whenever I approached any property, it would be like, I know this is going to be our home, but hey, let's think about what are we going to do next? Right. And so it just created this pipeline of not opportunities, but like growth. Right. Sometimes we talk about building people or building teams. Oftentimes the reason people leave our world is because they're not growing. And that's same with our clients. And so right. You provide an opportunity for growth, and it's just like you kind of create this opportunity for them to be better because you have the skills to take them there.
Right. Yeah. If you want to become wealthy, you have to, it's people. In other
Yeah,
words, you can only sell so much in a day. You, because, and if you don't have other people, then you own a job, not a business, and
absolutely.
real estate can be a very lucrative job. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to own a business and become wealthy, it's people, because somebody's got to buy your product, somebody's got to sell your product, somebody's got to service it, somebody's got to build it, whatever. It's somewhere along the line is people. So
No, absolutely. I remember going to, and this is kind of one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, there's an amazing producer. Um, and he sells, on average, a little over 100 homes himself a year. Really great agent. Most I
that's
ever did in a year was 97, and I like wanted to die. Like that was
right.
just heavy. And he consistently does it. But I remember that week, they were having this thing where this retreat where we went to Hawaii. And I remember that week in Hawaii, me again, not working, having the systems in place. I remember we took 7 listings. And I remember thinking to myself, this gentleman, which is so good, it's like his business had to stop. Whereas our business was just like perpetually growing.
Right.
And I think that's important to just like, look, that's not the point of like other people are doing it. It's like this system has to be built, but that allows you to do the things that maybe you want to work on. Is
Right.
it building your business? Is it building listings? Is it building buyers? Is it building your real estate portfolio so you can
Right.
build the cash flow
Or is it
necessary
more
to
time
sustain
off?
it? Right. Exactly.
You can either make more
Totally.
money. I wrote a white paper years ago. I called it, it's not, it's, you are what you really think, and I said, and as, let's say the idea, you want to make 25,000 a month, and you write that down every day. It's on your mirror, it's on your visor in your car, it's on your computer wallpaper, and you're chanting it, you're affirming it, everything, but come around the 15th to the 20th of the month, let's say your bills are 6,000, 7,000, well, your mind snaps back to that number. And so, because you have to pay your bills, and that's what you really think. And so
That
you have to
ceiling,
have
right?
yeah, because, because you have to make that payment, you have to come up with that money. And so what happens is, your mind always snaps back to that number so the key is you have to either have a system in place where you don't focus on that number because the machine is turning, or you have to have enough, some kind of passive income, or just enough savings to where you can pay all your bills for 3 years and you can just grind and focus. But as long as you
Yeah.
have to worry about paying your bills, then you're kind of a slave to it.
I think sometimes like when people think about teams, they kind of think about that, right? Because they're saying, well, I could make 100% on my own, or I can make, let's call it 50% on a team. And I
Right.
think it's just, and I don't think one's right or wrong. I think it just depends on, do you
No.
want to be a small percentage owner of something that's perhaps bigger than you?
Right.
Or do you want to be 100% owner of your own? And nothing's wrong with that. I've had team members that will make between 150 and 200 grand a year. But yes, they're a team member and they're a high producer. But when they go on vacation, they don't pick up their phone.
Right.
When they're out of town on date night, they're not slipping in the bathroom like I was taking phone
Right.
calls.
Right.
When they're off, they're off. And when they're on, they're on.
Right.
Whereas the 100% business owner, they may earn, so they have a better life than sometimes,
Theoretically.
frankly, you and I, right? Because
Right.
they're not worried about the bills. They're not worried
Right.
about those things. They're off. They have almost like as not a job, but like you have a job where you have true off
Right.
disconnect time. Whereas when you're 100% owner, it's the moment you wake up till the eyes shut.
Oh
It's
yeah.
every issue, every bill, every concern. And if you don't hire,
The
leverage or
correct people.
people
Right.
around you, man, you take on, now you're wearing 15 hats as opposed to,
Right.
hey,
One or two hats.
I'm going to prospect, I'm going to lead follow up, I'm going to attend appointments, negotiate deals, done. That's
Done.
all I do.
Right.
Versus wearing everything else. So
Right.
it's interesting how you say that, right? Because it's like the beauty of it is it better to earn 150, 200 grand a year and be 100% free and be able to disconnect it and wake up refreshed? Or is it earn 300 grand a year and you're stressed and your marriage is tough and you're,
Right. Everything.
it's like you choose. And I'm an advocate of that. So I appreciate you saying
Right.
that, because I don't think you do want to be a high producing salesperson to save money. And I do believe you need to build wealth over time, especially in this business. But
Right.
any excess income, like frankly, like it's going to go to taxes or therapy,
Right,
because
right,
you're so stressed out of your mind,
right. What's the old saying? Realtors don't go on vacation. They just work in sandy places,
That's so true. Oh no.
You
That's
know,
so funny.
yeah, everybody's down at the beach and you're like at the other end of the beach on the phone.
Totally.
So,
Oh, that's a good
so
one.
so tell us like how you developed your team. I mean, how did you start out with that? So what was your
Yeah.
like your first hire? Let's put it
First
that
hire
way.
was an admin. Frankly,
Okay.
I remember I was with there's a veteran in the industry, Aaron Richardson.
Oh yeah, I know Aaron. Yeah.
Does a lot of did a lot of multifamily, whatever.
Right.
He
He was
said,
an
"Hey, I want you,
investor guy, yeah, for sure.
investor guy." Yep. I remember he's like, "Hey, come to my office," and literally we're going to have a meeting, and I was on phone call after phone call after phone call, and I remember he's like, "Give me your credit card," while I'm on the phone. So I give him my credit card, and he placed a KSL ad for me at that moment because I was on the phone. And so he put the ad in the paper for me to get my first admin. And that was about my second year in the business. So that was my first hire. Admin, did a great job. Market took a shift. I will say this, my investment properties allowed me to keep that assistant because I was super stressed. And so that cash flow I was paying my assistant with. And
Good.
so that really made life better for me. My business trajectory went up during
Right.
those times.
Yeah, it allows you to do income generating activities.
Totally. And I just had her keep me accountable too, right? Because it was really important to me to make sure that I was hitting my numbers and being in front of people and connecting, and making the connections. And so if I didn't hit a certain amount, I had to pay her a $20 bill. And so I think I only paid her twice in like 2 years where I didn't hit my numbers every single day. But that consistency really made us grow. Once I ended up hitting about 48 deals on my own, that was buyers and sellers, I was really tired.
Right.
And I was really just like, I was a little unfulfilled, honestly. And so I went to my wife and I said, geez, I think I'm either going to quit this business, or I'm just going to figure something else out. And so I had actually cold called. I did a lot of cold calling. 50% of my business has always been from like past clients, 50%
Right.
from cold referral, right? That's how it started. But what happened is I put a Facebook ad, I remember, a guy that I'd cold called that was now in my Facebook stuff, friends, had seen the ad, hey, looking for a buyer's agent to help out. And that year, he came on my team, and in his first year, he closed 29 transactions. Was it under 30? Under 30, over 25.
Right.
And that was my first thing. And like as a group, I remember the numbers, if I remember correctly, I mean, as us working, that's how we went from like 65 to 85 to 101 to 151 to over 200. But it was like slowly as time went on, like now I was focusing on listings. And so, 2 years later, I think that 40, under 50 transaction I was doing, I was bogged down. Then I remember 97 listings in a year that I closed transactions. And I remember my goal was 100. And had I not worked with a couple buyers, I remember I was like, I would have hit my listings if I just
Right.
would have focused,
Right.
And but at 97, I remember those properties I sold that one year, I felt the exact same as when I closed those, under 50.
Right.
And that's when I was like, okay, well, I need somebody else. And that's when I took on a listing partner to assist me with the listings.
Right.
And so they went on 30, almost 40 appointments with me. And it was like, here, I'm going to do it. Now we're going to do it. Now
Right.
you
And
do
then
it.
you're going to do it. Right.
And they followed just the exact system and process, marketing, things that we do just different. I'm a marketer. I do believe in marketing. And frankly, they did better than I did because they weren't stressed out. They were more
Right.
connected. They provided a higher level of service. Like they were better to look at, and
Right.
they just provided a different level. And so it really helped me understand, like, man, there was a moment in time where I think as agents, we say like nobody else can do it. And I think over time, I felt that way. Like I can
That's one of
only
the
serve
biggest
them,
myths out there.
and they can actually serve them better than you can.
Yeah. Not only can other people do it, most of them can do it better than you.
Yeah. And it's
It's
just
just
because
that,
they have different skills, right?
right. Well, we just have the drive and the vision, but that doesn't mean we're good at it. We're just good at the
Absolutely.
drive and the vision.
Yeah. There's
and
so
that's
many
it.
good administrators, helpers, assistants. Like they're
Right.
just, I mean, we get
And they're
stressed, and
happy
so
that way.
they love it. They love it. Like
That's what it's
I
about. I'm not
totally.
happy doing that stuff. I'm like, no way. I'm on, I want to build a business, then I'm bored. Let's build another one.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you know.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have to be making something.
No,
So
absolutely. No, I think it's important. But yeah, I think building that, whatever you have, if you're a solo agent or a team, if you're a solo agent, just like surround yourself, like, with a great lender, like
yeah,
working with somebody that's like knows the business like you, understands it, can take it from A to Z, can take the weight of
right,
somebody else you have to teach the process to, great handyman, great. I mean, again, building this moat around your business that
right,
allows you to create a team. And I think people forget that, of like your team you have to meet with, and you
right,
have to teach them what to say and how to say it. You have to teach the handyman,
right,
teach the title person, teach the guy that cleans their windows to say, oh my gosh, you're working with Rob. He's an amazing guy. He's
right,
going to take care of you from A to Z. If you need anything, you just call him. He'll figure it out. Even if he doesn't pick up the phone, you leave him a message. He always is such a great help to me, so that people know, like, you're
right.
busy, you're moving, you have a support team. And it just, that reinforcement is so important in our business.
Yep. Yeah, we call that third party edification.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, I always teach, you want to be the dumbest guy in the file. And they're like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, just surround yourself with really smart people, you know? And then
Yeah.
like, when I was an agent, I didn't need to be, I didn't, I knew a lot about loans, obviously, but I didn't need to be the expert because I had
Yeah.
an expert.
Yeah.
Same thing with home inspections. I mean, after so many years in the houses, and I was a tradesman before I got into real estate. So I kind of knew about it.
Yeah.
But I had home inspectors that, knew way more than I did, just whatever. Doesn't matter. Just surround yourself with really smart people. That's the key. And a lot of times the solo agent doesn't realize, like, because it's hard to go from like 15. I mean, you're trying to get to that next level, but you can't really afford a full-time assistant yet, but if you don't get one soon, you're going to go nuts. It's kind of like you're in that no man's land. And I always say, make sure you have a transaction coordinator, and then hire a virtual assistant. You can hire a virtual assistant that's really quality marketing for $6 an hour online. I mean, that's
And
cheap.
yeah, I'll even go a little bit farther just to say, you can always get a transaction coordinator that you're paying per file.
Right. So
And
it's
you
not a
could just
monthly
say,
cost.
yeah, and then you have somebody else that comes in every Friday.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, even if you're just like, I can't handle this remote. I mean, because people always complain, well, I don't like the virtual assistant because I don't like the technology. Great. Have somebody come in every Friday. That's how I got my first full-time marketing person. I just wanted somebody that would come in every Friday so I could brain dump the marketing stuff I wanted to do. Everything from the transaction coordination, or excuse me, everything from whether it build, flyers on open houses, our newsletter that goes out, videos that we're going to do,
Right.
anything that's going to be posted on targeted marketing campaigns, all of that stuff. And so I just think that sometimes we limit themselves. Like, but what if the one best thing, and this better than I do, is that when you hire somebody, you actually perform better, because
Right.
you now have an obligation of, like,
You
I
got to
mean,
pay
just like
them.
today, like here we are, right? Today's the 24th of July. You and I are
Right.
on this call.
We're
I've
like
already
one
set
of
two
three
appointments.
guys working. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I already got up early. I already worked out. I've already set 2 appointments. Most people probably are getting out of bed or going to a parade, which is fine. Like, I
Right.
think you should do that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm just saying, on a day that's kind of a medium day, it's not like this full-time, like
Right.
Christmas,
I'm
where
not
it's an all-day
grinding, but I'm
thing.
working.
It's like, look, you should be making some contacts. You should be following up. People are happier today. New Year's Day, 24th of July,
Well,
Halloween, all these different holidays where people are like, I'm out, there's the days that you got to lean in.
right. Well, and the other thing is they're home and they're going to answer their phone.
Oh, and they're happy about it.
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. And that's all you got to do. Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that when you do hire somebody, it give you a different responsibility, and you do perform better. And frankly, you do level your game up, because you also locate your weaknesses, and then you double down on your weaknesses and get
Right.
the education, grow the skill set or become better at that because you're like, man, I didn't realize I need to be better at that. So you tend to escalate your growth, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's always the teacher learns the most kind of thing. That's what's going on there. And I
Yeah.
always say, if you really want to learn something, go teach the class,
Oh, right.
because now you got to do all kinds of research. You got to get up in front of people and you got to perform, and,
Yeah.
and when you're done, you'll know.
Right. You got to master that subject. No, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. I mean, I taught for many years and now it's coming back like, as a loan officer. So obviously my job is to get FaceTime with real estate agents. Well, I just scheduled in the last 2 weeks, 19 CE classes with brokers at their office,
Smart.
so that's what I'm doing, grinding. I'm setting appointments with brokers, I sent out that email. So I scheduled and I sent the email out Friday. Today's Monday. I have 9 podcasts scheduled. I have
Oh,
like
that's great.
2 this week and I have 5 next week.
It's so important. And I talk to agents and everybody about this. And it's so important to reduce that proximity to your clients. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people just send a text as opposed to
Yep.
make the phone call, send the video, connect like this. We just had a deal just barely close. And they interviewed the top teams, every single one of it. It's like, people will say, I want to interview the top team. And the only reason we got the deal is because I said, great, let's jump on a Zoom call. I want to meet you. I want to go over your questions. I want to just see who you are. I want you to know who I am. If I'm a good fit, let's work together. If we're not, guess what? Give somebody else the business.
Right.
Nobody got on a phone call. Nobody got on a Zoom. Everybody else got on a phone call, which they were fine with.
I love Zoom.
But they couldn't see anything you were providing because we would talk about something and then it's like, hey, let me show you this. And you'd bring it up. Oh, you know what? That's a really good point. Let me show you this. And then you're sharing your screen. You're collaborating, you're not face to face.
Right.
But so I think that's just genius what you're doing, because that is the lost art is it gets so busy where we have to like narrow it down. It's like I anymore. It's like, yeah, text messages, it makes sense, but like
it has its place.
Send your text message with the video then.
Right.
Let them see you're an actual person behind this curtain of 10,000 agents,
Right. I call it efficient versus effective. So like, let's say the appraisal comes in. So I can send my borrower an email and say, appraisal came in, no conditions. Well, they don't even know what that means.
Correct.
Or I could pick up the phone and say, congratulations. Let's say the appraisal came in 5,000 or 4,000 above. So I pick up the phone. I go, hey, Justin, congratulations. We haven't even closed yet. And you already have $4,000 in equity. I mean, is that cool or what?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And then I'm going to end that call with, by the way, who do you know? Right. So you can't do that with text. I'm going to get a referral out of that guy.
No, absolutely. And you're going to get a review, like you said, about having notoriety, and that again, people are not, and notoriety is the wrong word, but you're having public acknowledgement of your good work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess note as, I don't know what the word is. I mean, my popularity, and I was never like a popular guy when I was younger. I mean, I did okay, but like I was never that guy. But, it's 12, 10, 11 years of running a Facebook group and teaching CE classes. Now I'm that guy. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just some dude that gets up and reads every morning.
Well, it's executing, it's discipline, it's doing it every day. And frankly, it's creating a unique selling proposition or opportunity where at one time it's like, hey, you need to create a group that everybody can be a part of, and you created it. Whereas everybody else was like, what do I create? What should I do? And you'd already brought those people in.
Right. Yeah, we had that group's 5,600 agents.
That's a ton. That's crazy. And the influence on that is just ridiculous.
Right. Well, and the stats, I have it because I'm the admin. I get, insights on it. It's like 2,800 daily active users, unique active users daily.
It's crazy in a market where, 60% of agents nationwide haven't closed a deal right now.
Right.
And seeing that again, taking our numbers out of those 5,600, right? I mean, what is that statistic? I mean,
3,000 haven't closed anything.
yeah, but the 2,800, frankly, that are probably on there, are the ones that are closing deals.
Right.
Whereas the
Or
other
at least
3,000
trying
should
anyway.
be
They're
on
asking
there,
questions.
or
Right.
or the other people should be on there just to like keep their mindset going, thinking like I'm going to close a deal, as opposed to like, well, I guess we'll go run some boxes for Amazon or look for a
Right.
job or whatever, which again, it is a mindset game. I think the people that are winning right now, it is a mindset game of like, I am going to win, and or surrounding themselves with winners.
Well, when you said it earlier too, now's the time to lean. Like today's a lean in day because it's a golden opportunity because we can take off when nobody else can. So like if we want to enjoy a day at the lake, we can go on a Wednesday when there's nobody there and have fun versus going there on a
So
Saturday
true.
when it's a million people.
So true.
So when they're off on a Monday, let's go lean in.
No,
To me,
totally.
this is like when the market started tanking, I'm like, all right, this is it, baby. Roll up the sleeves. Let's go for it. Now you might not do as much production, but when the market shifts, you're going to you'll do what they call hockey stick,
Well,
right?
yeah, and I'll tell you honestly, like we're up 20% compared to
Right,
last year. Now the as far as the price point of the properties have adjusted, so we're just still exactly the same from a
right,
gross revenue standpoint.
right,
But I'm like, I hate to say it, like you said, it's like when people are like, well, how are you up in transaction? It's like, we were built for this market
right,
because people want to be connected with. So we're picking up the
right,
phone. They want people that can guide them and help them. Like they're spending the time, just like you say. It's like I always say, you got to read a minimum of 10 pages a day, every day. You've got to be growing your skill set, your mindset, your discipline, your ability to lead, your ability to influence. And man, it has made all the difference in, again, like just the extra, one or two extra deals a month is life changing. And it's just
right.
by simply that one little tweak of like, I'm going to reach out to people. I'm going to make
Right.
sure I have something good to say. I'm going to make sure I'm providing a world-class customer service experience to them,
That's the key right there. World-class customer service.
and they'll be yours forever. That's you reaching
Yeah.
out to your client saying, you just got $4,000. That's world-class. It's like, now you are a collaborator. You're in their winner circle. Like you're patting them on the back. You're not just like, hey, another deal. I hope it goes through.
Right.
See you
Thanks for the
later.
fish.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, hey, like we're in it together, and we're going to be in it together forever because I'm always here for you. So, I
Right.
mean, I think it's just genius.
I always, I always love first time home buyers. They tend to be, they can be a little more work, but they're not that bad. And, but I always loved being a part of their family's history. When you had a young couple, they're holding hands at the closing table, they're kind of giddy, and you go to the house, you open up the lockbox and hand them the key, man, it's just, that never got old for me. Never.
Yeah. I think you skip those opportunities because it's easy to be like, go to the house, I hit the key,
Right.
hey, it's like you got to have those moments of celebration, at the
Yeah.
closing, at the property, even dropping by after the fact.
Right.
I mean, I always say, and this is something that other people can do, is just following up a week after. Hey, how's it going? How's
Right.
the property? Is there anything that was missed? And if there's anything that's, a faucet that broke, there's a
Right.
light that went out. It's like, you know what? We're going to take care of it. So
Right.
sorry about that. And 90% of the time, the client's like, no, 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 don't worry. That's not your fault. It's like, no, no, no.
Right.
I know it's not. My job,
Right.
I want you to
I
have
didn't
an
ask you. Yeah. I
amazing
didn't ask whose fault it
experience.
was. Right.
Yeah. I want you to have an amazing experience. It's a beautiful home. So it's like, look,
Right.
let me take care of the faucet. Let me take care of the light that broke.
Right.
It's like, we just want you to be happy. And then
Right.
it's just like, and then guess what? If you guys ever need anything, I'm here. If you have somebody that's thinking about real estate, will you think about me? Will you refer them
Right.
to me? Because I want
And
to
they're
help you
like,
the same way I'm helping
absolutely.
you. Totally. It's creating that experience, not transaction.
Right. We used to do a thing called adopt a past client. And that was when somebody bought our listing, we
Mm,
would do exactly what you said. I'd show up there Saturday morning with pizza, and, knock on the door. Hey, I was the agent on this property and I know you guys are busy. I just want to bring you some food. And then and just talk to them. How's it going? Everything okay? I'd get their phone number because I already know their name and address, then I'd get their phone number and email, and then I would just move them right into my past client database. But first, they went on that adopt a past client campaign where I'm going to touch them like 8 times in like 3 weeks.
Mm,
phone call, gift, handwritten card, whatever, all this and that and this and that. And I'm going to send it to them. And, within 3, 4 weeks, then I just moved them over to my standard SOI marketing,
yeah,
but I call that,
totally.
and people are saying, well, you can't do that. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's not even a violation of ethics because the agency relationship ended when they closed,
Totally.
you know, and you and I both know the other agent isn't following up with them. So,
Never.
right.
Well, and it's not that they don't want to, they just haven't invested either the system or the tools, or frankly, like
Or taught
the
how.
yeah, or they just don't even have it in their schedule to do the follow-up,
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I love that. Pizza thing's really good. That's a really good one. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You just show up with pizza. You know, me, who
Yeah,
cares? They throw it out. I don't care. You know, I brought them a gift, you know, and then always have a refrigerator magnet with you. And when you're walking through the house, make sure you put it on the fridge or make sure you put them on your, before you close. If it's your listing, just make sure your magnets get on the refrigerator.
Mm,
you know, I mean, that's a simple thing to do.
so true. I
You can
love
have a
that. And
runner
right,
do
see,
that.
this is the thing. I always take notes. I always am
Oh,
taking
yeah.
notes, and I love that because we have magnets, but we don't leave them at the listings. Why the heck are we not doing that?
Right. Why not?
I already have them printed. They're already done,
Right.
Good heavens. That's awesome. Funny.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just the little things. Are you going to get a deal out of that? Maybe, you know, but, if you do 100 things and each one of them got you one deal, well, hello. Or let's say
Absolutely.
you got one deal out of every two items, that's 50 transactions.
There's a lady I cold called 10 years ago, and then she came and met saying, hey, I want to meet, whatever. And she came with a folder stacked with all our newsletters. And she's
Right.
like, okay, I'm finally ready to sell. And so
Right.
that property's
You're like, who
going
are
all the
you?
more. Yeah,
Right.
no, it was true
I
because I was
know.
like, and it is, it's just so interesting because it's like sometimes you plant these seeds and it's just like you just have to keep nurturing them because you
Right.
never know when they'll come around.
Well, they're either moving or they're not, and then when they're ready, they're ready. And there's nothing you can say. You can be the master of scripts, but you could sit at my dining room table and there's nothing you could say that's going to cause me to pack my crap and move unless I'm moving. You know what I mean? And so it's like our job's not our only job is to find out who's moving. That's it.
I used to say what I used to do is I dropped 10 pennies on my desk. And so for every person that I talked to, I just every time I asked them a question, I moved the penny. And the reason
Right.
why is as salespeople or as myself, I would always be like, oh my gosh, you're interrupting them or talking to
Right.
them. And so it's like, great. And as soon as I moved about 6, 7, 8 pennies across, they were just going over. And you could understand, like, are they motivated? Is it something that makes sense?
Right.
They've already pre-qualified themselves of whether they're moving or not. And so you're
Right.
deciding whether they're a hot lead, a need to nurture, or hey, we need to put this in the back burner
Right.
to follow up in 6 months.
Yep.
But it was simply by just like, you practicing and knowing how to ask good questions, having script knowledge and practicing your scripts, understanding objection
Love
handlers,
scripts.
and being able to resolve objections at a high level and not take it personal. Like,
Right.
cool, like you don't want to do anything, that's fantastic. Like, when do you think you'll do something, or not
Right. If
even
they're not
that?
moving, well, that has nothing to do with me,
Yeah, yeah.
me and
It's
my
like,
self-esteem.
yeah. And then it was always just like, that's fantastic. You're never going to move. Just curious. Have you considered building wealth with investment properties?
Right.
Is that something you're maybe looking at instead? And now it was a just trajectory change
Right.
of opportunities. And everybody's interested in
And
that,
everybody's
and
thought about that.
everybody. And if they haven't, and you can create opportunities for them where you're
Right.
like, look, I've got this big project, and again, you don't want to get into you know, but there's some partnerships that you may be able to create. I mean, we own one of the buildings that I own with a guy is just through a partnership,
Right.
and I think there's other things that we can do. Every transaction, I always say this, is like every transaction, every time you close on a deal, it isn't a piece of property, it's a person.
Right.
So create more opportunities with people and you will see more things. It's like chess. I said, chess is a game of you need to put yourself in a position to win.
Right.
So by you showing up, I mean, I'm in a suit every day. I'm dressed down today, but
Right.
put yourself in a position so that you can win, so that you have money saved so you can buy that property. You have your skill set ready for that big well that happens to come along and asking some peppered questions so that you can be ready. Making sure you're just there in the office for when somebody happens to call in, so you're not goofing around
Right.
and you miss that call and they move to the next person.
Right. Yep.
So
Yeah. Most agents don't. I love calling. I call. I don't, you know.
see, and that's rare, right? Because most people are like, I'd rather go on appointments. But if you can, just like you had mentioned, like, I don't care, I don't care what they say, as long as they can just get over that. Hey, they're not rejecting me. They just don't
They're
need
just not
to,
moving.
they just don't need to do anything.
Right.
They're not in the market. Like, I don't
Right.
have a tool or a service that can help them. And they're just like, no, that's great. And then when people talk a little bit nasty, they just need to be like,
Right.
okay, and laugh with it. I remember Dave Stocco, his office was next to mine. We did a lot of real estate together. And he would always say, when somebody would say something nasty to him, I remember it'd be like, did you just tell me to F off? He's
Right.
like, no, no, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intent. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go. And you know what I mean? I mean, I just remember that just
Right.
it would never take it to like this defensive like
Right.
push against it. Was like, whoa,
Because you
like,
can't win that.
no, you'll never win. And you never know what people are going through. And it's just like, oh my heavens, you know what? I made a
Right.
mistake and it looks like you're out of the market. I appreciate you. I'm always here. Take care. See ya. And then move on to the next one. And that is hard. It's even hard for me now. You get a nasty phone call and it's just like, I better get on the next phone call even faster than,
Right.
as
Get
opposed to a
that
lot
out
of
of my
people
mind.
retreat. It's like, hey, I got to
Right.
get on the next one, because it's like, if it's that bad right now, man, there's something else coming, that's going to be better. So,
Right. Well, and I would always ask that question. Have you someone ever called you and and you weren't interested and you just say, hey, I'm not interested, and you hung up? And I go, yeah. I said, well, let me ask you a question. How many days or hours after that phone call were you thinking about it? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, right. Well, why are you so hung up on a guy that just said he wasn't interested? What's the big deal? So when I first years ago, I was a Mike Ferry Ike train guy. We used to play a game called Hang Up. So the game
hmm.
was you weren't allowed to hang up until either A, they hung up, or set an appointment. So no matter, and they're like, they would be screaming at you, I would never work with you if you were the last agent on earth. And you're like, so that's exactly why we need to get together, because you weren't allowed to hang up. But the whole idea of the exercise was it just toughened you up.
Yeah, no,
It just
absolutely.
asked
That
the
is
next
so funny.
question.
I loved I never did Mike Ferry, but I loved the Mike Ferry system of the business of
Right. Of
following a
making calls.
discipline,
Right.
getting in front of people. And I think that's the thing. It's scary when people hear make calls. And what I would probably I've had to guess basically say is like, get in front of people. If you're not going to make 30 to 50 phone calls or 30 to 50 contacts a day to build your pipeline, then it's like, figure out a way to get in front of 30 to 50 people that day,
Right.
whether it be you're going to host some sort of an education thing and you're going to get that amount of people there.
Right.
You're going to go to lunch with X amount of people every single day. That'll get expensive, but it's like you're making your contacts, but you just
Right.
have to be in front of people. And for us, there's tools available like the Mojos and the
Right.
dialers where you can exponentially kind of leverage technology to reach more people.
Right.
But if you're not willing to do that, it's like, that's just not what I'm going to ever do. Great. What do you like to do? And then just do it times 10. And I think that
Right.
makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. There were no dialers when I started.
Oh yeah. No,
We,
I know. I wasn't either,
we
just
used to
like,
have two phones. We
yeah.
dial.
Oh yeah.
We'd have
The double
we'd wear
phone.
two headsets, and had two microphones. We'd
Yeah.
dial
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
right hand. On the second ring, we'd start dialing with the left hand.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's
that
so
it
funny.
took practice. Like sometimes you're talking to two people at once. Sometimes you hang up on two at once. It's like until you
That's
got good at it.
madness. Yeah, that's madness. But I mean, efficient,
Oh yeah, because think about how many times. The other exercise we used to do every time a phone rang, and I learned this from Matthew Ferry, was you would play it in your head that all we need to do now is simply set an appointment. That way I can help you get what you want and the time you want. Well, that'd be great. And they would say yes. And so every time the phone went bring, you played that in your head. So, I mean, you three times and you hang up, three times you hang up. So you probably heard a phone ring, I don't know, 150 times a day. And so we were playing this tape over and over and over in our head 150 times a day of setting the appointment.
Yeah.
So
And
that became our mindset versus they didn't set an appointment.
well, and it was just so different because the fact is even with all of the social media and technology and all the stuff, it's like it's the only way to hear voice to voice,
Right.
and there has to be a collaboration and a communication. It's super hard to close any transaction or make a connection with any person if
Right.
it's via text.
Yeah. No,
you
text
know
is brutal.
it's like you're
Text
never
has its
gonna.
place. Like I
Yeah,
texted you this morning. We still on? Yeah.
yeah,
That's a perfect place for text.
yeah. And it's like okay, that is a perfect place, but it was like, had I responded to you just more even like a voice memo, like, hey,
Right.
we're on, I'm excited to talk to you, that would have been that one level more
Would
of
have
just
taken up a
trust.
notch.
Right?
Right.
Could I have done a little quick video to you? Hey, I'm so excited, I'll see you
Right.
there, just so you know I'm not dressing up,
Right.
where you could have
Hey, I'm in a
responded like,
t-shirt.
yeah, then you would have responded, right? It's a collaboration now. And anyway, I just think that's kind of that missed kind of social connection, that
Right.
influence that sometimes we as, professional salespeople need to do to connect with people so that they
Right.
know that you're the person that they should work with. Because frankly, if you don't make that connection today, I always say, like, you got to get in front of them, because
Right.
today or this afternoon, they're going to meet with somebody or go to lunch with somebody, or they're going to get a phone call from somebody, and that other person they talk to, they might mention it and they know somebody.
Right.
So it's like, you got to close as soon as you make that opportunity, like, you got to close that connection and have them save it in their phone. Save me as Justin Realtor. I am here for you 100%. Just let me know what you need, save it in your phone. And then that way they're like, whoa, like, when it comes up, it's like, I already have, what's his name? It's Realtor, that Realtor, plug-in
Right.
Realtor, Justin. Oh yeah, yeah, let's call him, you know.
Right. Yep. It's the way it goes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I heard the quote, it's a simple business, but it's hard work, but it is a simple business.
I call it the hardest, easiest business,
Right.
because you do have the hardest things, but it's kind of like, what do you really do? It's like you have to know 10, master 10 really good things, the
Right.
pipeline, that from that pipeline. And once you master that, like, you can help them. But I do think a lot of folks end up kind of missing the boat on really investing in your own product. That's why
Right.
I did go back to school for that, because it was really important to me to keep growing. And it's just like, um, so that they can start building that cash flow. It tends to be like, for example, I have a $5 million listing right now, and like, I'm going to do everything I can and I hope that closes. But if it doesn't close, like, it's not going to change my life, but it's
Right.
because of the assets we've been able to build. It's looking for more things. It's like creating, from this business, create so many other opportunities. So I think that if people just have the goal of like, I'm going to master this business, so it creates the opportunity
Right.
to truly be a better person in this business. Like I said, I would never have been able to do this business if I didn't have the assets that covered my assistant
Right.
during a downtime. Like, it just creates you to, you're more present, you're not as stressed, you have a different conversations with people. You're like, hey, let's look at that lease, let's look at, here's a resource for you to, every problem you've had, you're now just one level higher than a peer that just can't have that conversation. It doesn't mean you're better, it's just you're having
No.
a different conversation. They perceive you differently.
Yep.
And you may have one little other property, but if you can buy one property a year, every year for 5 years, I mean,
Right.
they're going to be wealthier than probably any one of their friends.
Than
And
most
and
people.
I
Right.
Yeah, and I just think that's important to just like, it's not just about selling and doing a great job. It's like, okay, great, I'm going to do this so good because it'll allow me the ability to do this, this, and this, which will reinforce what my base already is.
Right. Yeah. And that's back to what you're saying, that, the white paper, you are what you really think is what you did. You had that ability to pay for that person. But if you didn't have that ability to pay for that person, you might have nixed them, and that would have just changed your whole trajectory of how you
Yeah.
did things.
Well, and I even just hired like a director of operations now to kind of
Right.
help run everything. And the whole point is I'm like, okay, we have a great business. I enjoy my business, but I'm like, I don't have, I'm, I'm not leveraged. Like I'm taking care of all these things and I'm not focusing on leading, motivating, keeping people accountable and
Right.
working on big deals to help my people. And
Right.
so it's like, what do I have to do? I need to do it again, you know? And
Right.
it's like, but the assets help where I'm not so stressed, where I'm like, okay, like
Yeah. Now
if
you
we
can
make
focus.
totally,
Now
yeah,
you're free. You're free to go make, once you have the money to come in and cover everything, you're now free to make money.
absolutely. And the other thing is, and this
That's the
is, I
key.
know a little bit off subject, but it's like on the tax benefits,
Right.
it's like
That too.
when you're going through and when you're closing, whether an agent's closing 10 deals or closing 100, I mean, there's going to be a tax consequence.
Right.
And if they can really figure out the real estate side, I mean, and I will just say like things that people don't know, these like look into your 1031 exchanges, understand what a cost segregation is,
Right.
like look
Take
at
a,
those
at least take
things.
advantage of it. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes all the difference. And um now, because I mean, you and I both know like a good agent can make 100, 200, 300, 500 grand
Oh
a
yeah.
year. But when 250,000 goes away in taxes, it could be catastrophic for somebody. Whereas they made 500,000 a year, they purchased a building, they did cut cost segregation, the 250,000 tax bill they were going to pay, they actually only ended up paying 220. They only paid 25 in tax,
Right.
25,000 in taxes
Save
because they did
200,000 and 200.
225,000 was
Right.
saved, but they took that 225,000 that would have been paid to the federal government. $1 in the market is worth four in the market. So they said, okay, well, I have 225. I can go buy a $900,000 asset, and then they
Right.
do it again
Right.
because they simply not mastered their craft. They're just like in the business
Right.
saying, this is what I need to do. And so they're following those things. And so I think that when agents, and the reason I say this is I think that when agents start thinking like that, the perception in the public is
Right.
completely different than it is, because
Right.
now they're
Than
not
just a
seeing you.
realtor.
Then they're like, man, this is a businessman. This isn't a
Right.
realtor. Like
Right.
they do real estate. They run a business and a real estate empire. And so they will come to you with different types of questions, and they'll refer everyone to you
Right.
because they just want to understand the experience that you've had. And unless you put yourself in those positions, as you already know, like executing, you will never be in those positions. Again, that chess game, you got to be in a position to win. Like you got to
Right.
get yourself there, and then just like, okay, what do I do next?
Right. Yeah. I always consider myself a business person with a real estate license, and now I'm a business person with a mortgage license. You
There you
know,
go.
you know, I mean, because I sold my brokerage last year, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, I sold my real estate brokerage last year, and so
Okay,
yeah, it took a few months off, uh, and worked on my mortgage license and started mortgage in January.
that's awesome, man.
I mean, technically, I'm new in mortgage, but I'm by no means new.
Such an amazing business, the loan business. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Different, but similarities. But just, I mean,
right.
anyway. I mean, you understand it, but
I enjoyed serving agents as I was a broker.
yeah,
I enjoyed that. And so now I can still service agents, and with less, less overhead, less staffing, and
the
you know,
bandwidth is different.
yeah, that's
You
the
know,
that's the right word, right? You
yeah,
know,
it's being in the loan industry. I mean, there's a couple things I probably would have done different, just because from a business standpoint, the one-on-one as an agent, if you really enjoy the one-on-one, it makes so much sense. But I probably would have dug deep into loans just because it's scalable at a different
right.
level. Also just time frame with family. I've got a 15-year-old and 12. I mean, they're all chomping around here, right
Right.
now. But
You're at all summertime.
yeah. I mean, I got dog here, dog there. I
Right.
mean,
Cat.
what the heck?
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand this. Anyway, but also it's scalable, but also like I probably would have done, I probably would have maybe done commercial. But again, it's just that 9 to 5 time
Right.
frame, working with more business people. The conversations are totally different. I always
Yep.
have had a love for residential real estate. It has provided me such a key. But I do think that, I mean, I think just we've always evolved, and so
Right.
that's why there's not a better business. You evolved of like, I've done this, I've learned some skill sets, and like now this is my baby. And in the
Right.
future, you'll do something else. And I think
Right.
that's just beautiful. I think that's how we're supposed to grow. I think we're supposed to evolve.
Right. Yeah, I got more excited, when I started, because I mean, I started heavily in January, but I mean, I started working on the business, last October, working on my license and business planning and marketing ideas and what I was going to do. And, but I got fired up again. Sometimes you're just like, when I was an agent, and I'm like, man, if I never saw another split entry occurrence the rest of my life, I'd be okay.
I,
You just, you get burned out I mean, 31 years I've been licensed.
oh my gosh, and I don't like to tell this. I don't even like, I get embarrassed by it, but I will tell you because this is, just in all honesty. I mean, I remember when I was closing transactions, between when you meet somebody and you getting their property ready, going on the market, negotiating
Right.
the deal, closing the deal, there can be 3 to 6 months
Yep.
between that time frame of when you met versus when you actually see them again in person.
Right.
And I remember when I was closed, that year I closed 97 deals. I remember 2 times when I walked into the title office and both people happened to be there, which is rare, the buyer and the seller, as you know.
Right.
And either the buyer and the seller, or they had all the offices filled. And I had to go to my title guy and I was like,
Who's who?
which office is it? Yes. And I was embarrassed because I
Right.
wanted to provide, I am all about first class service.
Right.
And I was like, I am so slammed out of my mind. I don't even recognize them. But the sheer volume, I mean, I remember that time I was going
Right.
to, sometimes I remember one time going to like
That's
8
two
listing
closings a
appointments in
week.
a day. Yeah, I mean, and the 8 closings a day, I was so spent. And I remember I took 7 of those 8 listings and I'm just like, I had to have the admin in place.
Sure.
That was a
Oh, without a
listing
shadow of
manager,
a
took the
doubt.
listing. And so they helped me, right? And they provided the service experience, but I was kind of like, hey, okay, now I got to do what I do. I get to prospect, lead follow up, attend appointments, negotiate deals. Done. That's all I do. And when they were taking care of it, but I felt like, and this is one of the reasons I decided to go back and get my master's degree, is I felt like you said, you mentioned like the 2 story, because they all started feeling the same.
Right.
The way I said it was I started feeling like I was moving boxes,
Right.
because I was like, these are all, yeah,
These are
there's
people.
always, yeah, they're people. That's exactly it. I'm like, I'm getting away from like what I love about this business.
Right.
And so, you chose to do this. I said, look, you know what? I need to step into something and do something different to like modify. And so there was this master's in real estate development program at the U. I'm like, you know what? I'm already doing small little projects. Like I have a gap in knowledge. I'm like, I feel like I have 60% knowledge. Can I
Right.
fill that gap? And I learned I probably had 40% of the knowledge,
Right.
and I got 80% there. But it revived me to being like, okay, like this is such a great business, and all these great little things about it. But sometimes it takes you stepping to the side. I think that's
Right.
why you say that burnout is so real, where you need either leverage or you need to either input knowledge or find knowledge.
Right. Take a break or
Um,
something.
Yep. To
You
just
know.
because that mindset sometimes just needs a little bit of a trajectory. It doesn't need to leave. You
Right.
don't need to abandon this business
No,
that we've
no.
built.
You just
You
needed
just
some kind
maybe
of
need
shot in
it.
the arm.
Yeah. And it may be that like you're partnering with somebody else that like likes that. They're
Right.
this integrator in your business, and you're like, I'm not going to be in front of any clients anymore, if that's what you want to do. And you're just
Right.
like, hey, I'm going to pivot. Like let's figure out how to make this work. So that's so funny you say that, but what a great thing in figuring out something that gives you more vision and gives you more just value in what you do every day.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, I love serving agents. That's what I've done for years. Even when I was an agent, I served agents. I was at one of the big box brokers, top recruiter, trainer, producing, you know, and then I just got tired of growing other people's companies and grew my own, you know. So I was
Yeah,
up to 100 agents. I was at 93 when I sold. So,
that's so many agents.
yeah. And
So
then,
many agents.
and that's the loan business. I can, with 40 agents in the loan business, you can make some serious money
I bet.
taking care of 40 agents.
I
If you have
bet.
40 agents that give you 4 deals a month, I mean, 4 deals a year, that's 160 loans. That's like 13 loans a month. I mean,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
crazy.
just 40
And they can
agents.
work remote, and you don't have
Yeah,
to have the overhead of a building,
no,
you
right.
know?
No, yeah, no. Yeah, even when I was a broker, I was a virtual broker. I just taught agents, I'm like, look, meet a buyer at your mortgage company. They got nice buildings. Meet your sellers
Or
at the
title
title company.
company.
They got really nice buildings. They'll bring you in drinks, they'll wait on you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a better experience than if you went out and rented something.
Yeah. And if you got a big enough bank account, you go meet at the bank and they'll have an office for you,
Right.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, there's so many ways around it. So anyway, well, let's see. I don't running out of, I mean, we could probably talk all day, you know,
yeah, I
but there
mean,
comes, we're at an hour now. That's why
oh
I'm
my
bringing it.
heavens. Well, that's
That's why
great.
I'm
Well,
bringing it up.
no, I think it's fantastic. Well, I mean, if there's nothing, I think the only thing I maybe recommend to agents is just if anybody's struggling, whether it's the top of the market or the bottom of the market, you do have to protect your mindset. You
Right.
have to have a schedule. I mean, I tell people like I'm a 5 a.m. guy, and it's not because I like it. It's just
Right.
because I have to protect my mindset. I have to
Right.
get up. I have to make sure I'm putting something strong into my mind of like positivity, whether it be a book or a podcast or something. I have to work out physically so that I can handle the stresses and have the
Right.
strength to handle what's going to come that day. And make sure that I'm getting in front of people, trying to make sure I'm mastering whatever I need to master and be better. And I think when you do that, you do tend to find that you now have a level of influence that maybe others just haven't done.
Right.
That extra 1 hour a day that you maybe spend on yourself or your business is an hour that the other people are not.
Right.
And that's 1 hour a day, 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month, 80 hours. I mean, telling my numbers wrong. 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month.
Right. So that's
You're spending
240 hours a
240
year.
hours in a year that now you
Right.
have
Which is three
spent.
solid week. No, 6 solid
Yeah.
weeks.
And this is another thing. Like sometimes we talk about like marketing and the ideas I'm going to have or whatever. Somebody could attend a 3-day seminar on marketing and probably
Right.
learned what it took me a year or two
Right.
in a class. And
Right.
they could buy a book, attend a seminar, listen to a couple
Watch a couple of
podcasts,
videos. Yeah.
and they can just master things differently than they're just so much available. And so I just think if people would just really just understand that like they can be a bigger producer than you were, a
Right.
bigger producer than I am producing, but it will take them executing, having discipline, putting in the habits and growing. Like
And the key is
they,
schedule. The
yeah,
schedule's everything. I teach, look, there's 4 time blocks in a day, right? Number one is morning routine, and that's different for everybody. I mean, if you have small kids versus empty nest, your morning routine is going to be different, whatever that is, but it should include some kind of quiet prayer, meditation, whatever works for you. It should include some exercise and some reading, and then obviously some nutrition. And then
yep,
that's your morning routine.
yep,
So, and then your second routine in the morning is, and I stopped calling it prospecting. I changed it, prospecting kind of gets a grind mentality. So I
true. I
changed the
agree with that.
words to, it's my appointment setting sessions. So, which also encompasses, lead generating and lead follow up, because either one is you're trying to set appointments.
I call
So,
mine business building activities. Same
right,
difference.
right. And then the third one is you have lunch, return emails and phone calls. And then, that's time block 3. Time block 4 is preparing for and going on appointments. But you only have to master 1 and 2, because if you master 1 and 2, 3 and 4 just fall in place.
Totally.
Because if you set appointments, well, you know how to do it. You know how to
Yep.
prepare for the appointment. You know how to go on it. So that's already, but so 1 is the mindset, 2 is the grind or work, whatever you want to call it. And then 3 and 4, just, they just handle themselves.
Well, and I will say this, I think one of the things too that people just have to do to help themselves, because it's easy to like, you need some sort of momentum.
Right.
And so sometimes, I mean,
Love
one of the
momentum.
reasons like we get to like have a Costco run where we bring food into the office. And I found that like whenever I'd leave for lunch or go to lunch or do that, it wasn't that I wanted, it gave me a break, which I feel like
Right.
you do need a break.
Yeah.
But I found myself always like, okay, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go drop off these at the post office, and I'm gonna go. I found that 1 hour turned into 90 minutes, or
Right.
the 30 minutes turned into an hour, and I was like, this is not working, because it's like
Right.
I'm wasting 5 hours a week on stuff that really doesn't need to happen. And
Right.
so it's like you got to get that very first deal. You got to get your very first deal right out of the gates. You need that momentum. When
Right.
you're making your phone calls, you need the momentum of having everything in front of you to get done. So it's like, bring your lunch that's healthy so that you
Right.
eat better. Because you go out, it could be expensive. And frankly, you probably won't eat very good. And you're going to get
No.
something super sugary that's going to just
Well, and
not
then,
benefit you, you
and
know?
canola oil that's been in the fryer for 6 weeks.
Yes. And
That's
so,
so processed.
yep. And so then, but use that time, whether it be whatever you're going to do. If you're in the car, make sure you're listening to the podcast, or
Yeah.
when you're going to drive to lunch, that you're making your phone calls in the car that you missed.
Right.
Like keep that momentum flow so that when that 5 or
Yep.
after that last appointment, that 6 o'clock's over, that you're like, I did do everything I could. Cause I guess that's the one thing I will say is that sometimes people are like, they're at the end of the day and they're like, man, I missed so many opportunities. Just keep the momentum flowing, right?
Yeah.
Like if meet with people, but meet with people and just like, it's okay for you not to eat at your lunch appointment and just bring a pad of paper,
Right.
and just be like,
Right.
hey, and you order a salad. So it's sitting in front of you, and then you take that salad to go because you're taking notes the whole time. I
Right.
mean, I can't tell you how many meetings where I think that I just knew I needed that momentum to just keep flowing, because there were so many times when I'm like, I just killed my progression. And it's hard to like get that going, like,
Getting it going twice in a day.
yeah, you've already
You know.
stretched out, you're already warm, like
Right.
if you're going to the gym, it's like if you're already stretched out warm, like why would you cool yourself off? Like just keep that going and then
Right.
cut it off. So I don't know. I think that's just one thing I wanted to mention, that has helped me a lot, to just be like, yeah, just like don't keep it in cruise control continuously, because that stop and go for me personally was
Right.
really a struggle to stop and go, to keep going and have the productivity that I was hoping for, to win my day.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
All right,
Having
sir.
having fun. So is there anything I didn't ask you?
No, I mean, I just think that uh buy property. Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait, no matter how small.
Right.
Stop buying sushi and
Right.
cigars and
Starbucks,
Lamborghinis and
675 a day, 675 a cup.
I
You
mean,
know.
it's okay to you should indulge. And this is the one thing I will say, indulge on the stuff, but know that this business is the best business to earn high income. And when you
Right.
earn, it's if you're closing 3 to 4 deals a year because you earn 10,000 a deal, know that you are so lucky to be able to do 4 deals and earn 40 grand a year. Whereas knowing you can do, I will tell you, you can do 8 deals a month.
Right.
You can do 150 and $200,000 months.
Right.
However, you just have to be saying, look, this is the type of business I'm going to run. I'm going to surround myself with winners.
Right.
Get yourself in a brokerage, either with winners, in a group of like-minded people that are winners or want to win,
Right.
and stay away from the water cooler. I don't even watch the news anymore. I do read it, so I
No,
know what
I
the
don't
heck's
either.
going on.
Right.
But it's, again, we mentioned it, like, protect your mindset. That's how I
Yep.
protect my mindset. I had to make a decision of like, where am I going to spend my time? And it needs to be around folks that like will make you think differently, be better, work better, be a better person, even if it's just raising your standards as a human. And
Right.
I think that you'll find that that progression will make you a better person. It'll make you more influential in people's lives. And as you have that influence equals leadership. And
Right.
people need leaders right now more than anything.
Oh yeah.
So I think that if folks, I would just say is, if you can just focus on being an amazing person, you will be a leader and you'll be able to help more people. Then I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So
So you said about protecting your mind. I remember, I think it was Earl Nightingale. One of the, I don't know, you listen to them read so many things, sometimes they start to blend together, but it was, there's only two things we can control. One is what you let into your mind, and number two, how you feel about it. That's the only thing we can control.
yeah,
You can't control the weather. You can't control what other people say, do, or think, you know?
didn't he say, and I think it was, I'm forgetting the book, but it was like, what the mind can conceive,
And
it
believe,
will,
right? You can
and
achieve.
believe it will achieve, is what
You
he
can
said.
achieve, right?
What is that book called? It's
That's
called,
Think and Grow Rich.
well, is it Think and Grow Rich, or was it, I'm thinking about the Earl Nightingale. He had a couple of them. The
Oh, that's Napoleon Hill, right? You got Napoleon Hill was Think and Grow Rich. What was Earl Nightingale's? Well, he had Lead
Earl
the Field.
Lead the Field, Lead the Field. That was what it
Love
was.
Lead the
Lead the
Field.
Field. Lead the Field is a fantastic. And I would say this: get those books in front of you, right? The
Oh
old,
yeah,
just old mentality, Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale.
right,
Some of those folks just have some knowledge and things that sometimes you're like, man, in our souls, we just hurt sometimes. And you're like, I just need something that'll like turn a little switch in me. And I
right.
just feel like those founders of thinking and thought can really just help us over those humps, because it's a lonely world,
Can be,
that crown of can be a little heavy,
right.
when people don't understand what you're dealing with. And so again, just create a tribe, get
Yep.
folks around you. That's why I always say, folks, like, if anybody ever needs a one-on-one in your business, like, call me, I'll go over it with you, because there's maybe some just little tools or systems or
Yep.
mindsets that can just
What's
tweak it
what's that
to
video?
change
200,
everything.
212 degrees. You ever seen that video? So
Oh
it
yeah,
talks
where
about,
the go
yeah,
ahead.
it's only
Yeah,
one
explain it.
degree,
The boiling
hot
point.
water is at 211, but 212, it can move, steam can move a locomotive. Then they went on to say like the difference between first place and third place in like the Indy 500 is like, zero point 0.7 seconds, but between first and second. But the difference was 1.3 million versus 650,000, and then the gold medal, the gold to bronze, like literally like less than a second separated the three. And it shows all these things. So it's like, you don't have to be that much better. You just got to be a hair more, just a hair
Yeah.
more.
And I think in this business, it's so easy. If you just show up every day
You'll be
and
better than most.
you will be better than most. And I don't want to say that I discount our business, because I
No,
believe it's one of the best businesses where you can serve people at the highest level. However, some people, if this is them choosing after a third or fourth or fifth job, or like, it doesn't make sense, those that treat it seriously can make our industry look and feel like a true profession. And the people that take it as a career, like, make us look great.
right,
And you do the things that a professional do, and the way they talk, the way they administer themselves, the way that they ask questions, you will stand out. And in a business, like, I had a salesperson that I'll be honest, like, their skill sets were very low, their knowledge was very low, but they showed up more than
every day.
anybody. And they just, their performance, it didn't only surprise me, I was just awe-founded, because I'm like, I can't believe how many clients they have, and they literally knew nothing. It was like,
Right.
hey, I've got this deal. Now what do I do? And I'm like, I can't believe this. And it just, and
You
it
just do another one.
continued
I'll
to
hire
happen.
somebody.
You're doing something that other people won't do. You literally
Right.
showed up and you were doing it consistently. And then we talk about momentum. Then it's like, okay, I learned something. Oh, this is what you say. This is how you do it. This is the repsy,
Right.
whatever. And then the skill set grew, but the discipline stayed there, you know?
Right.
And so then they just start progressing, and that compounding is something that we forget about with the properties we purchase, the skill sets we acquire, the relationships we make at when if you and I think about the beginning of our careers versus today, those compounded relationships, you know, I mean, even like the first property I ever purchased, like had I not purchased that, it wouldn't have led to, you know, the multi-units, the commercial buildings and things like that, because they compound over time. But that's how they have to think about like their clients.
Right.
Exact same way.
Yep. Yep. There's that one quote or saying, I forget what they call it. Something has to do with like talent versus like passion, heart, like in sports, like the guy that plays harder, with less skill, he wins, because they just outperforms a guy, not because he's better. It's just because he has more drive, and you got guys with talent, and they just don't play to the level they could.
Absolutely.
Give me the guy
Absolutely.
that'll grind hard, because you could teach them skills, but you can't teach the work ethic.
Totally
It's like,
agree.
well, you can, but it's not our job. I mean, that was your parents' job, not ours.
Yeah. You do got to figure out what makes you hungry. I mean, that is
Right.
a differentiator.
Right.
It's like, watch out, because you're going to be impressive, but you do got to find where is that hunger and how
Right.
can you reach it.
Yep. Cool, man. Well, this is good stuff. It looks like your video froze up on me. Are you still there?
Yep. We froze. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, there you go. Now you're back live.
There you go. There you go.
So, well, this was good stuff. So, well, anyway, so if somebody wanted to talk to you, how would they get a hold of you?
Yep, you can reach me. Our site, it's just my name, Justin at justinudy.com. That's Justin Udy. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So any of those, reach out to me directly. Anybody needs anything, I'm always an open book.
Okay.
Happy to help with whatever I need. It was great
Awesome.
talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
All
And
right, sir.
thanks for joining us, folks. My name is Rob Aubrey. This is the Productive Agent Podcast, sponsored and powered by Aubrey Home Loans. So thanks and have an amazing day.
Thank you, sir.